I was hoping blackmail.
Yep, so just mentioning that we're recording this for educational and promotional purposes. So, well, welcome everyone to our Interfaith Empathy Cafe. This is our first cafe that we're just getting started. And Leo and I have been working on setting all this up, and perhaps you could introduce it, Leo.
Sure, thanks, Edwin. So I've been known about Edwin's work for empathy circles for about a year. My career was in religious education, so I see a role for churches in helping build a civil society. So we had thought maybe churches can contribute to this campaign to have a culture of empathy. It's going to take all kinds of institutions and individuals to turn around some of the premises of our culture to a more listening culture. So we probably have time. This group is small enough we could do introductions for everybody. And I mentioned I'm a retired religious educator. I live in central Wisconsin and just finished 10 weeks with Edwin and a few, Linda and Larry and Yoram, about the book On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder. So we became good friends through that process. Who would like to speak next?
I'd like to talk.
Okay.
I believe that God is empathy. God, the Bible says that God is love.
Well, before you go into, just
sure.
to introduce yourself, like a minute to introduce yourself, and then we'll go into the circle itself. And especially, why are you interested in taking part in the interfaith? So just wanted to frame it a little bit. Go ahead.
Why am I interested in the interfaith?
In this cafe, yeah.
Well, because I think that God is empathy. I mean, I really do. I don't think it's possible. For me, personally, it's not possible to understand my world without empathy. I mean, I just don't see how it's possible. And to me, empathy is the highest form of love. That's my personal experience. So, I mean, God is love. How could he be anything else, in my opinion? I live in Davis. I've basically just, with James Joyce, I just decided I wanted to be a permanent student. That's all I wanted to do, because curiosity is my motive force. And I've just been looking for the answers. And I feel that the answer is empathy for myself, first of all, and for my world. I've just been a scholar all my life, basically. And this is what I've learned. So that would be who I really think I am. I'm willing to answer any questions, of course, but I just wanted to share that.
Great, thanks, Guy.
Thank you.
I'll just call on folks just for speed here. Larry, do you want to introduce yourself?
I am Larry, and I guess I'm on California's East Coast, called Florida. And I'm a retired occupational therapist, and I've been practicing the empathy circles with Edwin for about a year now, and I absolutely love it. And looking forward to our conversations.
Okay, thanks. So Dwayne.
Thank you, Larry.
Hi, my name is Dwayne Hearn. I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, from Los Angeles. And I'm a part of the facilitation team. And so first and foremost, I'm here to support building a culture of empathy and sharing empathy throughout the world. The other reason I'm here is for my own personal growth and development, and to see what I can contribute to the conversation. Thank you.
Thanks, Dwayne. Mike?
Yes, I'm in San Francisco, and I've been studying a lot recently about Bohm dialogues with David Bohm, and it's really interesting to me and something that I want to find out more about. And that's kind of why I'm with this group, because I think that what David Bohm is talking about is, some kind of empathy that you can achieve in dialogue. So that's kind of what I'm interested in. Well, not that you can achieve, but well, yeah, I guess you can achieve. Sorry.
Great, thanks. Linda?
Your microphone's off.
Sorry about that. My name is Linda Bass. I live in Texas, nowhere near the water. I'm retired after 33 years in property and casualty insurance. I'm now a mediator and arbitrator. I'm participating in this because I am a Christian. And as I tell my friends with things in the world events, it's hard being a Christian. And I enjoy intellectual discussion. So, and I'm here to support Edwin and the empathy group. So,
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you, Linda.
Jeroen?
Yeah, hi, I'm Jeroen from The Hague in the Netherlands, and Europe, for those who don't know the Netherlands. And I'm interested in like the empathy circles. I'm interested in philosophy, and I'm also interested in like I've got a little bit Christian background as I grew up, but also I've been inspired by A Course in Miracles, which is not really Christian, but it's like inspired by Christianity. And I also have a lot of resonance with what Sky is saying about empathy and relation with religion. For me, I think faith is required for empathy, because I need faith in, like, for me, I've got a motto is that if I don't see the beauty of somebody, I didn't understand them. And I need faith before I start wanting to understand them, because I don't know what the beauty is there, but I need to have faith that I found beauty, that I can find beauty, because if I don't have that faith, I might look for ugliness and I will find it, but it's not really the understanding that I want.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeroen. I just turned on the closed captions, so let me just turn those on. Don't want to see them myself. So how do I turn that off? 1 second. See all my words popping up here. Closed caption. Subtitle. Right.
We can't hear you, Dwayne.
You go to the live transcript, click on there, and it says hide
Subtitle. Got it. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. That's just I don't see it.
You're welcome.
Flowing here. So yeah, I guess I should introduce myself. I think it was everyone else. Why am I here? I'm just trying to spread the empathy circle practice, build a movement for empathy and get it in as many different contexts and situations as possible. So I see that the interfaith could be a really good way to spread it, to get different religious organizations together to have interfaith dialogues. And it's just another way to get the importance of empathy out there. And I'll say a lot more when we get into the dialogue. So we just wanted to see how much we need to explain the empathy circle process. Sky and Mike, how familiar are you with the process? I just want to see how much to explain.
I'm not.
You're not familiar with it? So, okay, so I just put a link in to a PDF. There's a one-page PDF, and then there's some videos we also have. So if you click on that, you can sort of, while we're doing the empathy circle, you can read through that, and that'll give you sort of the background, the process, how the process works. In essence, I think we'll stay in just one group. Sometimes we break into circles of 4, but this is our first one. We can just stay in one group for now. And so one person is going to be the speaker. We're going to have 4-minute turns. As the speaker, you select your listener. For example, I would select Leo to be my listener. We have the topic, which is, we put the topic in here into the chat so we can remember that. Let's see, and So our question is, how might we bridge social, religious, and political divides in our communities, and share whatever's on your mind? So you don't have to stick with the topic. If there's something that's really on your mind, you're welcome to share that. We're going to have 4-minute turns. So I would speak to Leo, say an idea or two, which is maybe about 30 seconds to 45 seconds or so. And then I would pause and Leo would reflect back his understanding of what I said. And I check, did Leo really understand it accurately? If he did, I continue speaking. If he didn't understand it, I can say it in different words and then get another reflection until he really gets, I feel really satisfied that he understood me. And then when we have, we'll have 5-minute turns. I don't know, Larry, are you willing to, 4-minute turns. Are you willing to do the timekeeping? So at 5 minutes, Larry will hold up his clock. He has a little timer, 4-minute turns, sorry, yeah, 4-minute turns. And then when the time comes up, you finish what you were saying, just in a sentence or two, get your final reflection. Then the listener, that would be Leo in that case, would then become the speaker, and he would select someone to speak to in the same process. And we just keep going around with this basic process for the time allotted, which is about an hour and a half, almost about a little bit more than an hour and a half. And so a couple tips, as you'll see on the flyer here, pause often to give the listener, as a speaker, pause often to give the listener a chance to reflect back. When you're done speaking, if you don't want to speak the full 4 minutes, you can just say, I feel fully heard. That just indicates that you're complete with what you have to say. And then it's the listener's turn to start speaking. And when you're doing the reflection, you're just reflecting the essence of what this person says. Ideally, your reflections aren't longer than the speaking of the speaker. So try to keep it short and succinct. And and so that's kind of quite very simple practice, very effective practice. And Linda is going to add something. Yeah.
Yes, may I add something? When we're going through the process, it's for the person to be heard. So you listen without judgment, without responding, without suggestions or opinions or feedback on what they said. It's just reflecting back to the speaker what the speaker said. And we go around in circles. And once everybody, it's been my history or practice, once everybody has a turn to participate, then you can go back to, you don't have to stay in an order. You can just bounce back if you want to reflect on something or talk on something, speak on something that somebody else said, if that makes sense. The key is no judgment, no decisions, no making, no opinion offering, nothing. You're just focused on what the person is saying so you can reflect back to them what they said.
And when it's your turn to speak, you can say anything you want. You can be judgmental, you can have opinions, whatever, share any emotion, whatever. So you're free to speak what's on your mind and in your body. And let's see, we will, what we'll do, Mike and Sky, since might be new to this, we'll have you, we'll connect with you more towards the end. We'll have the others sort of model it first, a few rounds. And then, we can just jump right into it. The best way to learn this is just to observe it and see how it works. And so I'll be the first listener, whoever would like to speak, just speak. I'm listening, and our topic is how might we bridge the social, religious, political divides in our communities, or whatever's alive for you. So I'm listening. Yep. Going. So.
When I think about this topic, I think about this topic the same way that I do any topic.
Yeah, so this topic is like any other topic that you look at, address.
I think excuse me. Yes, and one of the most important things for me is self-esteem and how I feel about myself. Because how I feel about myself is how I view the rest of the world.
So what's important to you is how you feel about yourself, because that influences how you feel about the world.
And so for me, it's important before I engage in any conversation with someone else that I've first had a conversation with myself, that I take a moment to be mindful and to just reflect on how I feel about something before I start.
So you like to start before speaking with someone else. You really check in with yourself. How do I feel? What's going on with me? And just have that mindfulness.
Yeah, the better I feel about myself, the easier it is for me to be open to listening and experiencing someone else and their points of view about something.
And when you're able to connect with yourself, you're able to be more open to listening to others and their points of view.
And it's really important for me that I use I statements, that I speak for myself, that whenever possible, stay away from generalizations and just focus on sharing what I have to say from my perspective.
Yeah, you really want to speak from your perspective, use I statements to speak from your own personal experience.
And the other part of that for me is one of the beauties of the empathy circle, the empathy cafes, is I also want to listen as actively as possible, deeply as possible to what the other person is saying based on how they view or experience life.
So you want to be able to listen just really deeply to how they're experiencing life and their views.
And so I think how I show up, how the things that I do in preparation is really important, no matter what topic that I'm talking about.
Yeah, so for any topic that you're talking about, it's how you show up, and you want to ground yourself and then really be able to listen and be present with the other person.
And I'd like to just conclude with a quote from Haran, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. If I do not see the beauty in someone, I do not understand it. And I can really appreciate that quote. So thank you.
So you really appreciate the quote that if you're not seeing beauty in someone, you're really not understanding them. It's a very meaningful quote for you.
Yes, and I was saying thank you to Haran. I think it's correct pronunciation.
Haroon.
And I feel fully heard. Thank you, Edwin.
Okay, great. Well, I'll speak to Leo then. Yeah, I grew up in Sacramento, and I was from an evangelical Christian background. So I was like totally into the, I'm saved. I got I got the truth. That was sort of my, growing up. Yeah.
So Edwin, you had a robust evangelical upbringing.
Mm-hmm. And thought I knew the truth. But I also had a sort of a quest to go travel around the world. So after high school, when I was 17, I started traveling and ended up traveling for years, around the world. And slowly, all my truth and everything sort of melted away to where I became non-religious. It's like there was no point. I said, hey, I'm not religious. It was just like it sort of melted away.
So your wanderlust helped evaporate or melt away your righteousness and knowing the truth as you discovered new worlds.
Yeah, when I was in Indonesia, I thought, well, if I was born here, I'd be Muslim. And when I was in India, I thought, well, if I was born here, I'd be Hindu. And then it just kind of, got me thinking. And what really became important was just people's nature, because people were friendly, wherever you go in the world, people reached out. And I just saw that sort of that humanity was really what was important to me.
So you realized in your world travels that faith adherence is often just a matter of geography, where you grew up. But universally, we're all humans, and that seems to be the core of your religious or humanistic faith at this time.
Yeah, and then when I came across empathy, kind of the term and the concept of empathy, 15 years ago, I said, wow, this is really kind of matches with my experience. So I guess it's kind of become my religion. If there is a religion, it's like empathy, listening to people, getting people to listen to each other is really kind of the core. Yeah.
So the idea and the experience and the practice of empathy are really at the core of your personal understanding and journey.
Yep, I feel fully heard. Thanks, Leo.
Thanks, Edwin. Linda, would you be can I speak to you?
I'm here for you, Leo.
Thanks, Linda. It's good to see you again. We just finished 10 weeks together and with Larry and you and Edwin. So I think I mentioned in one of my circles with you that I probably should have an empathy circle with my sister because she's on the opposite end of a political spectrum.
Okay, you're considering having an empathy circle with your sister because she's on the opposite end or another end of the political spectrum.
And I've been bothered by the polarization in our society, at least as reported by the media, and also evidence in how legislatures vote pretty much on party lines.
So what's concerning you right now is how the media presents things that contribute to the divide in the country and the politicians and their part in it, in the divide.
Yeah, it seems like we're sort of programmed to think in either or terms, right or wrong, left or right. And we're kind of trapped in, everything becomes a polarity of some sort.
So we're trapped in this either or, black or white, up or down, and we're trapped, as you say, we're trapped in this polarity.
I didn't apply the word of empathy to Martin Buber, but he wrote a book called I, Thou. And I thought of it while Skye was talking. Buber, it was a Jewish philosopher, and he realized that we can present ourselves in two different ways.
Mm-hmm. So this author, Buber, it's a book
Yes.
of B. The book is I, Thou, and that's a book that you're referencing. And he says, the author says, we can present ourselves in two different ways.
In the German language, the pronoun you has a familiar term and a less familiar term. So depending on who you're talking to, you can use either or.
Okay, in the German language, you is either formal or not formal.
Right.
Pronoun, yes.
Right. And so you can train your mind to represent yourself to others in a familiar way or a formal way.
So you can train your mind, what you're saying, to present yourself how you want to in a formal or informal way.
So he uses even a tree. When you encounter a tree, is that an it or is that a thou?
Okay, so the author, you're referencing him again in his book, he says, when you see a tree, is it a it or is it a thou?
If it's a thou and everything has a potential of being a thou, then there's a reciprocal relationship. The tree speaks to me and I speak to the tree.
Okay, so if you consider the tree a thou, it's reciprocated because you can speak to the tree and the tree can speak to you.
Everything in the universe is relational.
Okay. And basically everything, his theory or his hypothesis is everything in nature, everything in nature is relational.
This goes deep to my religious faith of understanding faith as relational also. And that's my interest in bringing the empathy circle practice to churches and faith organizations.
So you want to bring the empathy circle to church and faith organizations because the relational connection,
right,
or emphasis.
Right. Thank you, Linda, for
time.
being my listener. I feel fully heard.
All right, great. Thank you, Leo. I will pick Larry.
Ready. Thank you, Linda.
As I said before we started, or doing the introduction, I am a Christian. I was brought up in a Southern Baptist environment where we went to church every Sunday, sometimes all day Sunday. And if you didn't go to church, you didn't go anywhere else during the week.
Mhm. So Linda, you're saying you were brought up in the Baptist Christian, you're a Christian, you were brought up in the Baptist church, you went to church every Sunday and sometimes all day. If you didn't go to church, you didn't go anywhere else.
Yeah. And I make a distinction between Christianity and religion. Christian is Christ-like. When you walk that walk and you talk the talk, basically walk the walk, you're Christ-like, as opposed to religion, which is a ritual.
And you make a distinction between Christian and religion. And Christian is Christ-like. You walk and you talk that Christ-like example.
Yeah.
And religion is something
Ritual.
else, a ritual.
It's a ritual. It's a
Religion
ritual.
is a ritual.
And so in terms of bridging the divide, anytime there's a divide in anything, communication is the key. So people have to be willing to speak truth or their truth and be ready to receive or hear the other person's truth, even if it differs from theirs.
Mm-hmm. So whenever there's a divide, whether it's religious or political, whenever there's a division, the bridge is communication. But the communication is spoken from the I, the truth, and listening to another person, whether or not you agree with them, because they're speaking the truth as they see it.
Correct.
So they need to be heard.
So I do believe in the separation of church and state. It does concern me. It doesn't upset me, but it concerns me when politicians use religion as a stick or as a banner.
And you do believe in the division of church and state. And it concerns you when you see politicians kind of utilizing religion as a banner or as a stick.
Yes. And recently in the hearings for Judge Jackson, who will soon be Justice Jackson, one of the politicians asked her, about her faith, how strong her faith was, which has nothing to do with being a Supreme Court justice.
And in the recent election of Judge Brown Jackson, it was kind of alarming that one of the politicians did an inquiry into her faith, which has nothing to do with being a judge.
And before she could answer, which I think she gave the appropriate answer, basically told him it was any of his business, but he proudly said, but I don't go to church, or I only went twice a year or something. And I thought that was, I want to say asinine. That was an asinine statement and an asinine question asked by an asinine person.
So I'm hearing that before the politician could even wait for a respectful answer, which was given, he volunteered that he didn't go to church. Maybe he'd been there twice. And it just occurred to you that this is such a blatant example of hypocrisy. Yes,
I feel fully heard, even though I said asinine. I appreciate you using hypocrisy. Okay, is my time up? I heard something, I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Larry Felicity.
Thank you, Linda.
Jerome, would you listen, please?
Yes, I would like to.
I hope I said it right this time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying our conversation. Looking forward to it unfolding as it will. And I really like that, you know, empathy, to be able to listen is close to, is holy. It's holy. I'll leave it there.
Okay, so you like really enjoy so far the conversation, but you're also looking forward to how it develops, and you see a holiness in empathy.
Yeah, and you know, like Linda was saying, there's no need for religion when you're being empathic. You are walking the walk, talking the talk, when you're being the presence of the empathic self.
In the process of the empathy, the empathy process, you don't see the definition or the objection against the religion as Linda described it. The presence to somebody else seems to be something different.
Well, I'm saying that if we're being the true empathic human being self from the heart, then we don't need a religion to tell us what to do.
Okay, so you don't need the religion as a prescription of how you act. If you have the empathic experience. I keep losing your definition or your sense, I think.
Well, it's very much like you mentioned A Course in Miracles earlier, very much like it's described in A Course in Miracles, that when you are empathic or loving, you have no desire to be harmful.
So this is a way of being, like the empathic experience, the loving experience, then there would be no need for, you also mentioned there's no need for somebody to tell you what to do. It's kind of an inspiration or an experience that tells you where to go, or everything is right, or something like that.
Right. You're kind of following what I could say is a divine guidance, because I don't know another way to say this, within, that is empathic. It feels good. And if you ever even have a thought of doing something harmful, it feels horrible. So you don't go there.
So the divine experience is like, when it feels good, it is kind of like really going to turn out better. And if it feels bad, if you're like having harmful thoughts, it feels bad.
Right. So kindness, gentleness is our natural empathic nature. And to be doing anything harmful would kind of require force.
Okay, so you're saying that our nature is to be kind and empathic, and actually the to be harmful is a reversion or a kind of a deviation from your natural way of being.
Thank you, Yaron. I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I just want a quick note. I see someone joined us, Malaysian Hospice Council. I'm putting the instructions for how to do the empathy circle. It's a one-page how-to. You can review that, and you can just sort of observe the process, and hopefully you can take part after we've done a few rounds. And Yaron, if you could choose Sky or Mike now to be listeners.
Oh, I would like to hear maybe, or Mike, do you want to listen to me?
Oh, sure. Okay, I'll do my best.
I'll try to be a little bit concise, hopefully. So I heard about Linda describing some like the difference between religion and what's the other? I'm not
Christian.
sure. Christianity, right? Yeah. Thanks. And also that kind of like resonates with what I want to say because well, maybe you can reflect already.
Yes, you're referring to the comments that Linda made about the difference between religion and Christianity, and you want to kind of talk about that.
Yeah, because I started out as being quite like after my youth of like doing communion. Then after that, I just let go of everything, and I'm kind of brought up with the scientific inquiry attitude, which seems to be against all the doctrine of religion or Christianity as well.
Okay, so you started out as a youth, maybe I misheard this, with communion
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of, I guess, traditional approach to religion, and then you became more interested in the scientific method of approaching everything and looking at the world through that lens.
Yeah, and now I'm kind of like seeing things that I didn't see at that time, and maybe the people that I relied on to inform me about religion didn't see it either. But there's something about, like I already mentioned, to have faith in the intrinsic value of people and including yourself, which I think is part of all religions that I know of so far, and I find valuable.
So you've come to appreciate that the intrinsic value of each person, and maybe maybe I'm mishearing you, but you're maybe saying that that's something that was not, you didn't necessarily find in the scientific method. Is that what you were saying?
Well, the way that religion was explained to me didn't include this somehow, or I didn't pick up on this.
Okay, so
about religion that seemed to be, I didn't know that was part of religion, I guess.
you didn't know that the intrinsic value of everybody was part of religion.
Yeah, which maybe it isn't, but that's what I see now, which I missed before, apparently.
Okay, and this is something you missed before, maybe it was there all along, but you just never saw it in the
I only got confronted with the, like what Linda's mentioning, the religion side, which is the rituals and the commandments.
Oh, right, and so you were seeing religion mostly through the rituals and the commandments, thou shalt do this, thou shalt do that, rather than the intrinsic value of people.
Yeah. And okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks. That was quite nice. I enjoyed it and feel satisfied with being heard. Thanks.
Thank you. That was great.
So now you select your listener, maybe Sky, since Sky hasn't listened yet.
Okay. Yes, that'd be good. So I think the main problem I see with the divisiveness is in political divides, and it seems to me that this is something that the media really delights in rather than anything else.
So So you see the main problem is divisiveness, particularly in the political area. And you feel that that's particularly promoted, that divisiveness, by the media.
Yeah, I think they believe that it excites people, and I think it's precisely the opposite of what groups like this are trying to do, is to listen to each other. It's a way of getting people into their corners so they can come out fighting.
So they take advantage of people's tendencies for their own purposes, not to help people, but rather to turn them against each other.
Right, and excite them, and therefore, they can make money basically off of this divisiveness, rather than maybe there's not so much money in people listening to each other and cooperating with each other.
So their motive is to make money, and they wouldn't be making as much money if they weren't exciting people into conflict. So it really has the wrong intention, which is the opposite of what we're trying to do, which is create empathy rather than conflict.
Right. I think I feel very heard. That's maybe about all I need to say.
Thank you, Mike. So I should start,
Pick
Edwin?
someone to listen.
Like your listener.
Okay, I would like Leo to listen. So Leo, for me, the top priority in communicating with another human being or animal or tree is to make very explicit I statements, because I live in my body. It's a choice I've made. I mean, it's not a choice I've made. It's a focus I have committed to.
So Sky, you're in communication with anyone or any being. You think your priority is to use I language, to speak from your body. You're an embodied consciousness, and that's where you speak from.
Right. My focus has shifted dramatically from it statements to I statements. And I find that my speech is far less adversarial and objectifying when I stick to I as opposed to it statements.
So by making this shift from it language to I language, you're less adversarial, you're less confrontational with whoever or whatever you're communicating with.
Yes, and I fight for that. No, that was a joke. When you have to announce that you're making a joke, your joke has got to submit to editing. Anyway, or timing. It's time for editing. No. So I'm speaking right now about my own inner process. This is my process. And my big struggle is that I want to be confrontational. There's a part of me that simply can't frame the universe except in terms of good guys versus bad guys. And so, I mean, and I absorbed that, Indians and cowboys and Indians when I was a kid. I couldn't see, and it was just a huge insight for me that I don't have to live in an adversarial world when I strictly speak about feelings, because how can you argue with the feeling? You're not supposed to feel that way? Well, excuse me, that falls into the realm of Twilight Zone. You're not supposed to feel something. There's nothing objective about a feeling. It's strictly subjective. I mean, now I'm being objective. See, I caught myself. Thanks.
Well,
Remember
Scott,
to
you
pause.
mentioned earlier you had an academic background, and probably the framework was to study it, the world as an it, and to approach the world with feelings that doesn't have the same kind of objectivity. It's a new paradigm for you and how you are, how you exist, how you communicate. And this is a major shift for you.
Thank you. And lastly, I can empathize with people's need to see things in terms of I'm for and I'm against. Because I can even say, I'm against being for or against. I'm still against. But I just want to end with this last sentence, which is, I really am beginning to feel this universal empathy for people, whether they're for or against or not.
So once again, Sky, you introduce irony into your language and humor, but you can empathize with the folks who.
Your thing is turned off. Your sound is off, Leo.
Oh, sorry, bumped it. You can empathize with those who do not empathize because of your own background and experience. You understand where they're coming from and how they have been shaped, framed by maybe by the culture. And but you're as you as you said, you're going to fight for this empathy.
Thank you. That was great, Leo.
Thanks,
I think
Guy.
I picked the right guy.
Yeah.
Well, we're all listening, even when we don't have that active role. And some of us even take notes. So I'll ask Dwayne, would you be my listener today?
Yes, I would be happy to listen.
Thanks, Dwayne. One of my notes was when you talked about your preparation before communicating. I thought that was a very practical tip that I took note of, to get to center yourself and to be aware of where your own head and heart is before approaching another in communication.
Thank you, Leo. One of the things that you identified or reflected on is the statements that I made about the importance of preparation, and you thought it was a really practical tip to share the importance of how I approach having a conversation with someone and making sure I know where I am inside my heart and in my head.
I mentioned before I worked for churches in my career, and so I know from the inside, churches can be notorious for being parochial and kind of enclosed in their own little community, their own clique.
You'd mentioned earlier that you'd worked a lot with churches in your earlier career, and churches can be parochial. Did I pronounce that correctly? And confined within their own clique in terms of who they communicate with.
So I've had this pipe dream of churches talking to each other, but churches may have very different understandings of religion, of spirituality, of empathy, even to have a common ground for communicating with each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because you have this dream that, one day, churches would communicate with each other. But, in your experience, churches have a different understanding of what religious means, what spirituality means. even what empathy means, and also having a common language that they would be able to communicate in.
I'm in a discussion group with 4 Baptists in New Jersey, focused on prison ministry and prison reform. And there's a lot of common ground in between my Catholic social teaching and their principles for reform in the justice system.
Currently, you're involved in a discussion group with 4 Baptists, and you're discussing the ideas of prison reform. And it's interesting that you find that you all have some common interest or common ground about how this might take place in terms of the reform.
So I'm in sympathy with Edwin's religion of empathy, because at the core, humans are humans. And that is the common ground and the basis that whereby we can communicate.
You find sympathy, or you're in sympathy with Edwin's idea of empathy as a religion, because you think that people do at their core have empathy for other human beings.
So to test my premise, in my heart right now are Ukrainians and Russians. Thank you.
To test your premise right now, in your heart, you have feelings for Ukrainians and Russians.
Thank you, Dwayne.
Thank you. No, thank you. I have to take a moment to pause because I'm still reflecting on what Leo shared. Let's see. Larry, would you like to be my listener?
Your sound is off, Larry. Your sound is off, Larry.
Thank you. I right-clicked on it instead of left. Thank you for that. Yes, Dwayne, I'd be happy to be your listener.
Thank you. As usual for me, I'm absorbing a lot of the ideas and the things that everyone in the group is sharing.
So Dwayne, I hear you saying that for you, using the I statement, I'm enjoying and absorbing the things that are being said in the group.
Yes, Larry, and there's so many different things that I would like to speak to.
And the many different things that you would like to speak to with the I statement.
So one of the things that I think I would like to share at this moment is my own particular religious spiritual development.
And Dwayne, you would like to share at this moment your own spiritual development, your personal spiritual development path.
Yes. My first, I would say 14 to 15 years, I was brought up in the Baptist church, and I was in church or Sunday school or some form almost every Sunday, and then sometimes during the weekday for Bible studies.
So you were in church up until 14 or 15, almost every Sunday in a Baptist church, I think you said?
Yeah.
And sometimes in the Bible study groups as well?
Yes. In fact, I even sang in the choir for about 5 years. And I had the experience of being in predominantly African-American churches. And I also had the experience of being in a church where we were a minority group in the church.
And you had the experience of singing in the choir for about 5 years, and predominantly in Black African-American churches. And you had the experience of being as a minority in a church.
Yes. And for me, it was when I was about 14 or 15 years, all the collective experiences that I had actually led me away from the church.
And at about the age 14 or 15, all of the collective experiences that you were having in the church led you away from the church.
Yes, because, you know, we were, in my family, we were required to study the Bible, to learn the Bible, to memorize different parts and verses in the Bible. And I experienced so much hypocrisy when I would be around the church and around church people.
And as you studied the Bible and memorized the Bible and got to know the Bible, you began to realize that the people in the church are being hypocrites.
Well, I would say I experienced the idea of hypocrisy and the behavior without necessarily labeling people as hypocrites.
So you noticed that the behavior of the people in the church was not following what they were taught in the Bible, and you wouldn't consider using a word that would fit the definition of doing the opposite of what you say. You wouldn't label them, but you decided to leave the church.
Yes. And so for most of the rest of my life, although I've been to church, you know, several times over the years, I consider myself a spiritual person, and I've been on a spiritual journey.
And so you've been to church several times throughout the years, and you consider yourself the label of spiritual.
And for me, one of the most valuable, I learned a lot of really valuable lessons attending church and studying the Bible. One of the most important things that I learned was that the most important relationship is between me and what some people call God or Allah or the creator or the source. And for me, that was the most important thing that I learned, that I've always kept with me.
And the most important thing that you learned out of all of this experience was that your honest, true, sincere, authentic relationship with this divine guidance, whether you call it God or Allah, it doesn't matter what label you put on it. It's the actual relationship of living what that is.
Thank you, Larry. You articulated that better than I do, that last part. Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Thank you, Dwayne. Who hasn't gone in a while? Is Catherine ready? Right, Catherine? I'm not sure.
Hi. Hello. So sorry, I joined late, and it's very early here in Australia. I'm happy to go.
Ready? Okay. All right. I'll start a 5-minute timer, and I'll speak in just 1 or 2 ideas, and then I'll pause for your reflection. Okay. I am really enjoying our conversation today. It's just a really warm experience. I'll stop there.
You're having a wonderful time today, listening and feeling the warmth from what is being said and what is being heard around in this circle.
Yes. And I experience this in empathy circles every time. It's amazing.
You think it's amazing how every single time you come to an empathy circle, you get this same experience.
Yes, which demonstrates to me that when human beings practice this empathic way of being, listening, that this is our natural state of mind.
It speaks very strongly to you about how this is actually the real state of mind for humans, that you can come together like this.
Yeah. So from that, I say, maybe this is the way we're designed to be.
And following that, you feel that this could be the way that we are all supposed to be, that we were made to be empathic listeners.
Right. So whatever we call it, the DNA or the Allah or the God or the divinity, those are all words, and we made up the words. But the reality is, I'll use the word natural.
So you feel that we actually come from a natural empathic default state, and it doesn't really matter what sort of tag we put on it and what we call it, whether there is a spiritual entity or there isn't. We still come from the same state.
Yes. And we can, in this empathic state of mind, recognize no one has any intention of harming anyone else.
And you feel that in our state of empathic listening and empathic intention, you would not have a misunderstanding that someone out there has adverse intentions to harm.
Yes. So then I would say, I wonder if in the development of language, human language, over the millennia, whatever time, maybe someone noticed that when they stopped talking and they paused, there's this moment of revelation where you could say something was revealed, but I didn't say it. And it was like a revelation in the silence that's golden. Stop there.
Okay. And it feels to you like along human development, we have naturally discovered that in the pauses, like discovery, something far more beyond what language could achieve.
Oh, thank you, Catherine. And that was the beginning of prayer and meditation. I feel fully heard. Thank you, Catherine. So now you become the new speaker. You can pick any listener, and just remember to pause after one or two ideas.
Okay, thank you. I've never done this before, so do I just pick anyone from the list? Okay.
Yes.
Can I pick Mike Zonta?
Oh, okay, sure.
Okay. So I see everyone speaking about spirituality, so I think I will try that as well. And share a little bit about my own spiritual journey.
Okay, everybody's speaking about spirituality, so you want to share a bit about your own spirituality.
Yes. So I feel like I've almost made a round looking for a place to call home, and I've done that for many years of my life. I've been to church 7 years. I've been to various temples because I grew up in Asia many years as well, and I've always encountered the same issue where I would try so hard to fit in, but ultimately not be able to, and ultimately I altered myself as atheist.
Okay, so you've been searching around for many years, I including churches and temples, and I believe you said you were brought up in Asia,
Yes.
and then you, oh, this is really hard, and then you settled on atheism. Is that right?
Yes, yes, that's totally accurate. Yeah. So,
Okay.
interestingly enough, I have really enjoyed the spiritual experience. I guess my contribution to the conversation would be, if there was only a way where religions would allow, because they offer so much. I even as an atheist, I really feel that, you know, and maybe this is not the best position for an atheist, I don't know. But I really feel religion has its place, and a good place in society. We all have our place in society, and we contribute to it in different ways. But I wish we were more accepting of our alternative points of view, like for example, that I could go to a religious place and be with them and be them, but not have the pressure to convert or convert straight away. Or yeah.
Remember,
Yes. You want to, you wish that religion has its place, and you want to, you'd like it to be so you can maybe participate in different religions, but not feel obliged to convert.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes. Yes. I work in end of life now, so that means I work with dying people, and I see, and I guess that's why I am so encouraging of religion, even though I don't have one myself, because it really fulfills a lot of human benefits.
And at end of life, and you can, and even though you are not a particular part of any religious community.
Yes, but it also, you know, tears people apart, even at the end of life, which is so incredibly tragic. I wonder if there's a better way.
Oh, so you're finding that religion, even in end of life situations, is divisive and tears people apart, and you're wondering if there's a better way of dealing with the kind of issues that religion deals with in end of life situations.
That was the time to Larry just held it up.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you, Larry.
Okay, so now I choose somebody.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to choose Jorgen again, or Jorun.
Yeah, Jeroen is it? But anyway, I'll be glad to listen.
Great. Well, I was so discombobulated by that last listening time that I don't know what I think. I'm just trying to listen is not so easy. Well, I'm just excited by this process. It's very different than anything I've been through before. And I'm wondering, I'm hoping I can turn some people on. In the spiritual group that I belong to, we tend to meet a lot together, especially in these days of Zoom, but I don't know that this particular process, I can see great value in. So let me pause there.
Okay, I hope I've got a little bit of background noise, so I hope it doesn't affect the the audio, but so I hear you say that it was kind of intensive for you to listen to Catherine, and you needed to pause there, and you were thinking you're quite impressed or about the process. You kind of think that maybe you can bring this into your religious community as well, and try to see if you can convince them, to the people you interact with, to also integrate this process there.
Right, because usually we're also, myself included, so excited about what we want to say next or what ideas are running through our heads, that when we're faced with having to listen to others, it's a discipline that, as Larry pointed out, might bring about some kind of group insight that wasn't around before. I think you're muted. I can't.
Sorry, yeah. So you think that the process might help to focus on the listening part, which you are kind of missing. Like people are, you notice, maybe yourself included, you're kind of focusing on what you're saying, but not really what other people are saying.
Yeah, and also the idea that out of this process, out of this really a discipline, as I see it, will possibly emerge some new ideas, some new ways to approach specific problems, I guess.
Okay, so you actually see it not just as a process, but as a discipline. And you think that doing this with the group together, some ideas might come that otherwise wouldn't have been there, that maybe something new might emerge because of this attention to each other.
Right, and basically that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Oh, it's just even like more than like one-on-one, but actually maybe there's something like emerging in this discipline that is like greater than the sum of everybody individually added together.
Right, because the West is such an individualist society culture that this is a habit that's tough to break. So I think that's about all I need to say.
Okay, so individuality, you see it part of the Western culture, so much so that you see a challenge in trying to break through that.
Yes, I feel fully heard.
Okay, thanks. Oh, that's nice. Okay, time was exactly right. Okay, so I want to choose then, if we have still time, to somebody who doesn't speak for a while. I think
We have half an hour.
Okay, Linda, would you like to listen to me?
Yes.
Thanks. Okay. Yeah, I've got so many points written down, but I'm enjoying that everybody's like sharing appreciation of the spiritual experience, which I really also appreciate. And I have so many things to say about that. But on the other hand, I also recognize, like you mentioned, the religion as and also Mike mentioned this before, divisiveness that's created. Maybe it's intentionally created, but at least it seems to be like when religion meets social pressure, something emerges that I don't really like.
Yeah. So you're enjoying everybody sharing their religious experience or their spiritual experience, and that you believe religion, whether intentional or not, creates divide. Factors into the division of people.
Yeah, although I want to say also add to that I think lately, the last couple of years, we've seen that it's not just religion that does it. It's like many other political ideas or ideas about how we should approach our daily lives under challenges, that also
it's-
create division.
Okay. So it's not just spirituality or religion that is helping with this division, to support this division, but also political and social, and just how we should live our everyday lives.
Yeah, and I think that's specifically where religion causes these disagreements. It's where it relates to daily life. And of course, religion relates to the birth and death, because those are very intense experiences. But in doing so, it's also saying how people have to deal with the birth and death, and how they should deal with their sexuality as well, and how they need to conduct that, which can actually cause a lot of issues.
So we have religion between, what I think I heard you say is between life and death, and we have, and sexual orientation, the whole bit. Religion has a lot to do with the division, how we think.
And also, like, I feel very sad hearing about my family who felt pressure to, like, not use any inhibition or contraception. Well, actually, they had like more children than they wanted, and that they couldn't give the children the attention that they needed. So I feel very sad about hearing about that.
And sad about your family. Their belief system was not to use contraceptives or anything that would prevent a birth. And so they ended up having, or families end up having more children than they can afford, or that they can give the attention to that the children, each child deserves.
Yeah, which I guess doesn't really benefit people developing themselves. So I'm thinking, like, well, can you have religion while still having a more practical way of like choosing your own life, and not having pressure being accumulated, and how do you say, like, progressing to the next generation? And I don't know, that doesn't seem to enrich life in that way. I don't know how that can be, like, how to divide them, or how to have, well, a religion without that. I don't know, I cannot see it.
You're trying to figure out how you can live life without having religion pressuring you to do certain things that you may not agree with, or practical life, and then it goes from generation to generation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Yeah. My time's up, so thanks. I feel fully heard.
Okay. Edwin?
Yep, listening.
Okay. All right. I have many notes here. First of all, whatever, and I'm not a student, a deep student of all religions. I know just enough to be dangerous about different religions. But what I do know is all the ones that I'm familiar with are based on love. That's the foundation.
So there's just a lot of things you're wanting to talk about. You have a lot of notes, and you just want to make the point that the religions you know about are all based on love.
Yeah, whether it's Muslims, Catholics, Protestants, whatever. Hindu, is all, the foundation is love. And I think the fact that we categorize and compartmentalize all these different beliefs helps in the divisions that we see in the world.
Yeah, so the religions are all based on love, the ones you know of, but by creating categories of the different religions, that's what's contributing to the differences and the conflicts.
Yeah, because everybody thinks that they're right. And if you don't, and some of the rituals in these spiritual organizations are based on culture, and when they don't line up with the culture that you're familiar with, then fright sets in or fear sets in, the fear of the unknown.
Yeah, so the different religions are based on different cultural practices. And when people understand the different cultural practices, they become afraid of the unknown, and that creates conflict and problems.
And someone said that in this talk that they believe that we're, I think that we're born good or we come here good. I don't think that. I think we're born into our environment, and we are animals, and by instinct is the strongest survives. That's the survival. We come with this survival instinct, and we need a spiritual realm within which to operate. Everything and everybody needs boundaries. And that spiritual realm, whether it's Hindu, Christianity, or whatever, that's the spiritual realm that we operate in.
So we come into the world with this struggle for survival and maybe self-interest, and you see that we need spirituality to take us out of that into this other realm of love, maybe.
Yeah, and here in America, the majority of the country goes to some type of spiritual place on Saturday or Sunday. But they're saying now that we have more young people leaving the church. And I have older people that I know leave the church. And I tell them, when you put your focus on man will disappoint you every time. And so when they fall off that pedestal, then you feel like all is lost and whatever they've been telling you is not real. So I encourage people to research and study for themselves.
So there's a lot of people are leaving the church, young people and older people, and you tell them to, and maybe they're putting their faith more in people, but then those people fall off the pedestal, and then people are left with nothing maybe to believe in. So you're saying it's important to kind of research different religions and really find that spiritual foundation.
Yes, because to me, it's all about the spiritual realm. And that's the reason I said earlier, it's hard for me to be a Christian, because I think it was Mike, someone mentioned Ukraine and Russia. And as a Christian, I'm supposed to love everyone. As Urin says, see the beauty in everybody. But in that situation, the secular side of me says, take Putin out. So that's not Christian.
So you're saying that Christianity is telling you to love everyone, but just seeing what's happening with Ukraine and Russia, it's like you want to take Putin out, and it sounds like there's a bit of a struggle between loving and wanting to take them out.
Yeah, and the spiritual realm, and that's where, when I think of God and Christianity, it's all about the spiritual realm, which we are taught that there are evil forces or whatever in the spiritual realm, and it's our enemy is not flesh and blood. It's not the person, but the spirit that is operating through that person. So it can be an evil spirit or a good spirit.
So you want to see behind the person to see what is the spirit that's operating. Is it a good or evil spirit operating with them, and not sort of make it personal?
Yeah. And, and that's what the Bible tells us. And that's where we as Christians here in America or the West, we're told to pray, which, that was quick. I'm not through yet. We're told to pray, which is a form of meditation and getting in touch with the spiritual side.
So your religion is teaching you to pray, which is like meditation that helps you get connected with that spiritual side.
Yeah. Thank you.
And you were surprised you had a lot more to say.
Of course, I always do.
Goes so fast.
Thank you. You did good, Edward.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see. So who hasn't spoken? I've lost track. If 5 is like, I really want to be, speak, and then 1 is it's like low, and then 0 is doesn't matter. Is there anybody kind of Nothing.
We haven't
So,
heard
wow.
from Sky in a
Oh, a
while.
one. That's a one. Okay. Oh, okay. And Catherine, I haven't spoken to you, so I will speak to Catherine since. Are you there, Catherine?
Yes, I'm there.
Saya mau minta kamu bisa bicara bahasa Melayu?
Oh my goodness. Ya, saya boleh bicara bahasa Melayu.
Boleh bicara? Ya, dulu saya tinggal di Indonesia dan saya bicara bahasa Indonesia.
Oh my goodness. That is
You want to
amazing.
reflect that back in English?
Yes, I used to live in Indonesia, so I can speak a pretty good Indonesian language. Yeah.
Yeah. So so I saw you said Malaysia, so I thought you probably speak Malay.
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah. So see what I want to talk about was so one of the reasons for me for doing the Empathy Cafe for interfaith was I want to reach out, since I'm running for Congress, I want to reach out to the local interfaith organizations to bring them into dialogues like this, to help the community, to sort of bridge the community divides.
So because you're running for Congress, one of the things that you wanted to do is bridge community divides through interfaith dialogues, and this is a really good step.
Yeah, and tomorrow I have an empathy circle with some of the candidates running for Congress against me. So we have 3 of us and we're going to have, so I'm trying to bring the candidates who are running into empathy circles as well. And 4 of them were interested. 3 of us can do it tomorrow and the 4th one can't, but I'm going to try to get everybody together in these empathy circles.
So what you're going to try to do next is bring all the candidates together, and you've never done this before, I gather, into one empathy circle to try to do this. And you've gotten 3 of them, so there's just 1 more missing, but you're going to try to get everyone together.
Yeah, I have done this once before with candidates, so I have experience. I wasn't a candidate then, but I had other candidates coming together, and it worked I thought it worked pretty well.
Yeah, and you found it's worked really well in a previous experience that you've had with other candidates, although you were not a candidate yourself then.
Yeah. So anyway, I hope that we can reach out. I hope that we can grow this group, and bring more people in, that we can also reach out to the local faith-based organizations in the area that I live, to bring them into these circles, and I'm trying to bring the community together with empathy circles.
So you're trying to bring more and more of your community where you are into these empathy circles. You clearly see the value. I'm sorry, I can't get the rest.
No, that's it. That's good. And it's almost like, I think Linda said, love is the core of all the religions. I think it's love is pretty strong, but empathy, I think, is kind of more doable, right? It's like, it's hard to tell people be loving, but you can say, let's have an empathy circle. And I use the term empathy circles or microdosing love. So it's like little micro doses of it. It's sort of doable.
You feel that empathy is almost like a subset where it's easier for people to practice on a day-to-day basis, and you echo what Linda says about all religions are ultimately about love, and empathy is a good way to put that into practice. Yeah,
exactly. And then I sort of joke with microdosing, because there's some people that take drugs, they call it microdosing, little tiny doses. And so the empathy circles sort of like that little dose of love in it.
Yeah, and you elaborate how, the empathy circles are microdoses, like something like how you get a little bit of hit each time. And it's just so much easier to do.
Yeah, I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm still trying to get the hang of how this works. So Would anyone be comfortable being a listener? Anyone wants to just say, okay, I'll go.
I'm willing to listen.
Okay, thank
Catherine.
you. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
So I organize interfaith dialogues in my community as part of my hospice work. And I've always had people come up to me, and I advocated a lot, a great deal, and I've always had people come up to me and say, hang on, you're an atheist. I'm usually the only atheist in my community because in end of life, most people who go into end of life is very, they're usually very spiritual, very strong in their religion.
You're involved in hospice work, and you're also involved in interfaith work. Even though you're an atheist, you believe that people can establish a spiritual connection even without sharing this exact same ideology, religiously speaking, because there's a deeper connection that you feel that you can facilitate. Is that right?
Yes, yes. And I feel it's like life is hard enough, you know, especially if you are talking about palliative care, and if we have any sort of resource that's available, and if that resource is spiritual, then why not? We should go all out and encourage that and use that as one of the tools, and there are many tools depending on your spectrum that can be used to have a better human experience.
That life is hard enough even if you're not dying, but if you are dying, it's certainly going to be tougher in a very important sense. So it's important to use as many tools as possible to help people get through these incredible challenges. And if it's certainly the spiritual is a tool that that one shouldn't ignore.
Yeah, so I really believe that whether we have that religion or not, I've come to see that that there is really nothing wrong with encouraging each other in spiritual growth, and I think that by sort of opening sort of that empathic listening, you get to and enjoy what people of other spirituality might have, and that they also come to enjoy and accept your own beliefs more as well.
So you feel that empathy is a very powerful method to bring people together on a spiritual level. Did I get all of that?
Yes.
Did I miss something?
Most of this out here. I think my time is up.
You're muted.
40 seconds.
Okay. No question. So it's been a really good journey, and I really can see myself using this tool in my hospice practice. Once I get a better hang of it.
Mm-hmm.
You really feel a powerful sense that empathy is very useful and enjoyable, and you're very much looking forward to using this tool in your work.
Yes, thank you. That's perfect.
Thank you. Thank you.
We heard it.
Thank you. So there's only 4 people left here. I mean, besides Catherine, who would be involved?
No, anybody, you can pick anybody.
No, I'm just saying, because there was another fellow.
There's
Anyway.
9 of us here. There's Leo, myself, Larry, Mike, Jeroen.
Oh, well then
Dwayne.
my screen isn't showing everybody. Let me look at the screen here. I'm
If you're on
sorry.
a phone, you may need to swipe to.
Yeah, I'm not on the phone, but obviously I don't have as much familiarity with my screen here.
Upper right, there's a view icon, and you can click for gallery.
And you'll see everybody.
I did, and I do have 9 people now. Yeah, good, thank you. So I would like to, Larry, would you like to listen?
Yes.
Thank you, Larry. So I'm going to adjust the screen a little bit here. So I am constantly in a particular struggle. This is 24-hour struggle, and that is to empathize with absolutely everybody. I mean, I know that it's incredibly idealistic, but that's why I like it. So, and it does, I feel bliss when I feel empathy for absolutely everybody unconditionally, including Hitler and Mickey Mouse. I really relish the idea that I know what it's like to be a torturer and to be a victim.
So Sky, you're saying that you're in a struggle to experience empathy for everyone, kind of in maybe an all-inclusive positive regard for Mickey Mouse and Hitler equally. And in that experience, you feel kind of bliss.
Exactly. So when I hear people talk about other people without empathy, I mean, clearly with contempt, I ask myself, why are they feeling this contempt? I mean, obviously they're feeling contempt for themselves. You can't have contempt for any aspect of your universe unless you're having contempt for yourself in that aspect of the universe. So obviously, to me.
So in this empathic state, it becomes apparent that, you know, if people are having conflict with one another in a kind of a worldly power struggle, conversation, conflict, those conflicts are probably coming from the very mind that's projecting the conflict onto someone else. Something like that?
Exactly. And so my question is, why would that bother me?
So in this empathic state, as you observe these conflicts, what's it got to do with you?
Exactly. And then what I realize is, oh, it's because I feel threatened.
This seeing this conflict out there kind of maybe triggers a little fear.
It triggers as much fear as it triggers any negative response. So if I hate Hitler, it means I'm terrified.
So from the empathic state of openness, complete openness, there's the experience of seeing someone in conflict, and then the kind of triggering of, you know, this, if I stay in the empathic, that I'm not triggered, I'm not in fear. If I can have empathy for those in conflict, then I can stay in peace. Is that it, kind of?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, logically, yeah. I'm not sure that that's what I said, but it doesn't matter. This is a good translation. So, I mean, an excellent translation. Good job. So, what I'm trying to say is that the very thing that I despise is merely other people protecting their boundaries. We all have boundaries. We all need to protect our boundaries. Conflict is just a way of protecting boundaries. So I can respect everyone. Let me just finish with this. I can respect everyone, no matter how hateful or despicable they may be, because like me, they're just protecting their boundaries. That's all it is. Hate is just protection of boundaries. Ego is just protection of boundaries. That's my formulation. That's my self-talk. I wanted to share it.
So Sky, I hear you saying that this is your point of view, your self-talk. This is the way it appears to you, that there is this empathic vision, kind of, and people do have an ego, and this egoic self needs to protect itself. And people just want to protect themselves. They want to stay safe. So they want these boundaries to stay safe from other people.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Larry. Great.
Thank you,
I
Scott.
feel understood.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
I think we have time for one more turn. Larry.
Leo, could I speak to you, please? Thank you, Leo.
Leo, your sound is, oh.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So I'll start the timer. I'll do a left click and not a right click. 1 minute timer. There it goes. Yeah, I really enjoyed our conversation. Something that I almost always bring up, you've probably heard this before, is that Marshall Rosenberg did a deep dive into what he considered to be world history and world religion, and came to the conclusion that we've been living in this domination, egoic separation, fearful thought system since all the way back in Babylon, when humans decided that they could make a kingdom and overthrow it. I'll stop there.
There's a tradition, millennial old tradition of domination.
Yeah.
And is it Rosenberg is one of the sources of this idea, going way back to Babylon.
Yeah, and it's never gone away. Never gone away. We're still under it. We're all still kind of waking up. Sky is pointing to, we're waking up to having this empathic vision to realize, wow, this domination conflict thing, what's that got to do with empathy or love?
So we still abide by this ancient tradition of domination, not love.
Yeah. And according to what Marshall Rosenberg researched through the theologians, I think is the word, the story is that the kings and the priests, if they call them priests back then, of thousands of years ago, cooked up a recipe to control people. And the recipe was the very wealthy, dominant, patriarchal kings could not only dominate the least of these, but it would be okay if they enjoyed it.
So Marshall Rosenberg's research led him to believe that it was the advantage of kings to dominate, and even to the point that they could enjoy this domination over other people.
Yes. And this is enculturated into our movies and our literature. We see the good guy on the movie going out there, and they go and get the bad guy and they dominate that bad guy, and everybody's yay, relieved because we're safe now.
So the good guy, bad guy, might even call it a mythology if you understand that word, but that pattern is embedded in our culture. We all grow up with it.
And we really think that the good guy should enjoy punishing the bad guy.
So the relationship is one of domination, where the good dominates the bad.
And what's that got to do with empathy?
Question mark. What does that have to do with empathy?
Nothing at all to do with empathy. Our natural, empathic, peaceful self doesn't need to be dominated, doesn't need to be made into a slave or a soldier to go to war so that some 1%er off somewhere living in an ivory tower can get more gold.
So this is to the advantage of 1%, the king and the princes, and maybe the religious leaders. And it belies our natural state of being empathetic, kind creatures.
Thank you, Leo. I feel fully heard.
Okay, well, thanks. We just have 12 minutes for closing. So we just go around, hear from each person, just a final, 30 seconds to a minute, like how was the experience today? And I'll just call on everyone just to move it along quickly. Leo, would you like to go
So
first?
I mentioned my career was in church work. So I'm a church mouse, an institutional person. And I think I approached this challenge of interfaith communication from an institutional point of view. How do we get the pastor to agree to a dialogue, et cetera? We had an interfaith communication today. For all the way from Australia to the Netherlands. We've spanned the global time zones. And if I try to bring this global practice into my locality, it's as simple, I simply need to go up to someone and start an empathetic conversation, because every conversation is going to be interfaith. I can talk with my fellow Catholics, and that's going to be interfaith. And I'm prone to change the name interfaith to inner faith, because we all have some kind of a core and a search. And so I thank all of you for participating in our inner faith exchange today.
Thanks, Leo. Sky, you want to go next?
Well, yeah. I hope this doesn't sound adversarial, because it is adversarial. And I don't want it to be. But I genuinely believe that it's impossible to be unempathetic. I please don't kill me. But I really believe that. I mean, when I read, for example, Hitler's letters to his generals, he's expressing nothing but empathy. So there's just nobody out there who isn't being empathetic. Even my father, when he got angry with me, was expressing his empathy for his father when his father got angry with him. And we're parrots of empathy. It's just a question of how pure and refined the empathy is. And obviously, if you're ignorant, you're not going to refine your empathy as highly as somebody who is highly educated. And I don't mean academic education. I mean educated in life, just going out in the street and hanging out with people. So I just wanted to get that off my chest, because I want to see whether I get lynched or not.
Okay, stay tuned. Will Sky get lynched or not? Larry, you want to?
Deep gratitude for this beautiful conversation. What a beautiful sharing. And I was listening to Sky there, and it was, to me, what came up was the word intention. Like, what is our intention? Is our intention to live peacefully, or is our intention to dominate? And that's such a tricky thing for humans to be aware of. So this circle for me was just awesome. I just think we should share these empathic conversations in small groups and with friends and family and all the time. Why wait? Why wait? I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Larry.
Thank you, Larry.
Mike, you want to?
Yeah, I want to share this process with my spiritual group that I'm involved with. I'm very excited about it. This is my first exposure to this process. And so I want to, look at some of the videos and read some more of the stuff, because I think there's a lot of really real value here. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Mike.
And you can bring your community here too, if they want, into this framework that they want to join us. So they're all welcome. Linda?
Your speaker's off.
Yeah. This is the first time am I on now? Yeah. This is the first time I've engaged in a conversation with anybody about religion, and we didn't end up arguing about religion. So I really enjoyed this experience. Because people can say things that you disagree with, that doesn't mean that you have to respond to that, if that makes sense. So just being able to just listen to people, their thoughts, their opinions, and how they came to those conclusions, I enjoy it. I like logic. I like thinking. So this is good.
Thanks.
Thank
Jeroen?
Yeah, I'm really tempted by Sky's invitation to object, but because I'm really like, I always like to see the other side. Anyway, I really enjoy the conversation, but I also think that that's something that I've been developing, like a theory about love and hatred. It's like you got two different ways of assuming that that you're in the world, like being one and also being separate. But when you are converted or inspired to be in the one side of oneness, then all the adversariness doesn't make any sense. It's also like an intellectual framework in which you can't even understand that there can be anything else. But on the other hand, if you're on the other side, then it's totally the opposite. Then you cannot understand how can you ever agree with somebody who thinks A, B, C, whatever, and get along through the same door, etc. So I think we're experiencing here the positive side, and from inside of here, seems like this is the way that we want to move forward, and I agree. But I think also spirituality is the taking on the challenge to, when you're not there, how to get there through inspiration instead of the intellect.
Yes.
Thank you.
Dwayne?
I had a really full schedule today. And so I was going back and forth whether or not to join the group today. And I thought it was important to join because this is the first time this particular topic would be brought up in an empathy cafe, as far as I know. And so I'm really glad that I was here. I really enjoyed the experience. I always enjoy the experience of learning and growing as a person. The other thing that I would just like to conclude with is, I view the world based on how I feel about myself. And the more I'm able to find love in myself, to find empathy for myself, the greater capacity I have to share that with others, to share that with the rest of the world. And so I will continue on my journey of personal growth and development so that I will have more to offer when I have an opportunity to connect with other people. So thank you. I'm glad that I was here today.
Thank you, Dwayne.
Thanks, Dwayne. Catherine?
I really had the most amazing time. It was far better than I even anticipated. So I'll definitely say I'll try to make it for any other cafes that you might be hosting. So thank you.
Okay, well,
Thank
great.
you, Catherine.
So the next thing is we're going to have another, our next cafe is not until, let's see, what is it? In 2 weeks on Sunday, the 24th. So the 24th through the 30th is National Week of Conversation. And there's a lot of national dialogue going on. And so we kind of shifted it from Saturday to be Sunday to be within that framework, within that week. So it's going to be Sunday, the 24th. You can join us again. And then we'll go back to Saturday. So it'll be Saturday, the 30th, and then May 7th, and going on Saturdays. And I'll just mention for the people who are new to the practice, usually we divide into smaller groups. Like if there would have been maybe one more person, we would have maybe gone into a group of 5. And that way you have more time to speak and to be heard, and it's a little bit more engagement. But this, being in a larger group like this, can also be very enriching too. That you just, I enjoy both. So the main thing is really if you can invite friends, post out to your communities to invite people to come, so we can build up this group on an ongoing basis. And we also have let me put that in there, a feedback form. I'll give you a second here to click on that link. If you click on that link, it's just to kind of get your ideas, how to develop, improve the group. You can just add your email, your first name, which session you took part in. Today's April 9th. If you're part of any organization, just some notes on how the experience was today. You mentioned it here in the circle, but getting it in writing is handy too. And yeah, and so I think that's kind of it. Leo, do you want to close this out with any final?
I put in chat a religious reflection about listening, because that's what we did mostly today. We got 2 ears and 1 mouth, and I think the ratio is well ordered. And I encourage you to, Mike and others, to do this process in your local groups, but also to come back here to practice and to inform people of how the process works. You can save chat with the, if you're on a computer, with the 3 dots in the lower right corner. And thank you, Edwin, for doing all the background work and organizing this. You're well practiced. you know how to do it. And now the challenge is how to bring this to more people, faith communities included. But as I said, every conversation is going to be turn out maybe a interfaith communication.
Okay, then thanks. And in closing, we'd like to get a little jazz hands. Catherine, if you're able to turn your camera on, so we just get a final group portrait. Are you there? Can you, let's get
and
Catherine
thanks,
in.
Catherine, for being up in the middle of the night.
Oh, it's early morning, isn't it there?
It must be 4 or 5 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, thanks for joining us from Australia.
And from the Netherlands, where it's late.
Yeah, Dwayne.
Oh, could you also put the link in, or not Edwin, or Larry, put the link in for the facilitator training that's starting May 9th?
Yeah. I don't have that handy. Let's see, where is that? Oh, if you do, let's see.
Let's see if I have it anywhere.
That's true. This is kind of a larger, broader link. If you go to Best Empathy Training, the training website, so we have a 5-session training, and if you scroll down on that page, down to way down to cohort 12 series, it's 13 that starts, and there's a link there. May 9th is the next training. So if you're interested in taking the training, you're welcome to join us, and all the details are on that website there. Yeah, bring your whole community. You can do
which website is that?
It's,
when I just put it in the link to sign up.
Oh, that's the sign
okay.
up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other one is the training website, which also is easy to remember. It's bestempathytraining.com. So if you just go there, the link that Dwayne just put in is also accessible there. Okay, well, with that, we'll have a good rest of the day and see you next time.
Love you guys. Thank you.
Good to see you, Sky.
Thank you all. Thank
Love
you.
to all you guys.
For those who celebrate Easter, have a happy one.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Happy Easter, everyone.